Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizarro. I'm your host. That's Bizarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. You can find me personally at Justin Bizarro. Again, that's two Z's, two R's. You guys go to my Instagram, you go to my email, you literally use it on all the forms where it is my name, yet you still misspell my name, guys. When you actually say Bizarro, I love it. Or misspell my first name, which it's on every episode. I like one of the fundamental things, guys. I do it too, and one of the things I hold myself to is really making sure I'm intentional and I use names properly, and I have messed up. I've messed up with entrepreneurs' names and stuff like that, and I take it very seriously, but I got to laugh when it's right in front of us and we still do it that way. And believe me, I've done it. I did it with an entrepreneur's business name. Even though I was saying it properly, I was still mistyping it. It was "you are here," and for some reason I would type it "we are here." So honest. So I get it. I laugh. I have to laugh. But anyway, I have Maria Leasa with us from Foodology Baked Goods. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly after I just went through that big speech. And she's out of Long Beach, California. How are you doing today, Maria?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So I don't even know I love what you do. I love all the things you're doing. That's how I found you.
Mhm.
But let's start at like little Maria. Tell me about you, because there's a journey on the way to entrepreneurship, to bakery tour, maybe. I don't know, but talk to us about that, Maria. I want to hear your story.
Yeah, I guess taking it all the way back to when I was a child, I I think a lot of founders in the food space or specific to bakers and bakeries talk about how they've been baking since like the age of 5 or even younger. My story is actually different because I did not start baking until I was 29. I actually started baking during the pandemic. But naturally and innately as a child, I had always gravitated towards food. And I think most people do, but I feel like I had true love and passion for food. And I noticed that at a super young age. I would taste things. I remember I would taste things and I would say, this needs a little bit more pepper or a little bit more of this or that. And I vividly remember a family member calling it out and being like, how would you know that? You're like 5. So I feel like my palate, I guess, as a child was either super advanced or I just genuinely love food so much and have always felt that way. And I was very food motivated. If my dad or my mom or anyone tried to bribe me to do something, it was typically in the form of a reward of food. So I remember churros being a huge bribe food that my dad would offer me in trying to get me to go, somewhere with him or do something for him. The the famous Cinnabons in the malls that we still know and love today.
Yes,
I would have an
really.
aunt that would tell me, like if you do this for me, I'll give you a half dozen box of the Cinnabons, and that I love that. And so yeah, so looking like if I'm really looking back, I just feel like food has always been a really big part of my life in a special way. And so now, fast forward to present day, it's really no surprise that I ended up in the food space, despite the fact that I have my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's degree in occupational therapy. So I've definitely pivoted with my career choices. And yeah, I mean, just I knew someday that I was going to end up in food somehow. I wasn't sure how. And like I had mentioned, I started baking during the pandemic, and I guess that's how it found me in a very unexpected way. And shortly after that, I was juggling both my occupational therapy job and baking on the weekends and after work. I was doing that for about like a good year and a half or so until I decided to put a pause on occupational therapy, or what is a very long pause, or maybe it was a goodbye. I don't know at this point, but it's nice to know that's in the back burner. But but yeah, so it's kind of just unfolded and blossomed in an organic way. I wish that I had known how to bake since I was younger, because I could only imagine how much more of a stronger skill set and, I guess, just experience overall, how that would benefit me today. But I don't know. I think that my journey is unique, and I also think that there's like several messages that I get to share and put across anytime anyone asks me how I've gotten here, or what's my story. I think, aside from the fact that I've eventually did finally follow my passion and dreams, that it's never too late to do what it is that you truly want to do, and it's okay to pivot. And it's only one life that we live, and so it's important to not feel bound to a job just because, for whatever reason you may have, and to maybe listen to what it is that you truly should be doing and the space that you're really supposed to be in. And it's worked out so far for me. And yeah, so that's, I guess, a little bit of a tidbit. I feel like I went into so many different directions, but yeah, that's kind of, I guess, the foundation and the story of me and foodology.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit more, even though I feel like I'm like my dog when he gets a bark box and he unloads and there's like toys in there every month and he kind of unloads all the pieces. And then he's like, now
Uh-huh.
what, Dad? You got to help me out here. You got to like pull the tags and do what. But I am a little bit, I want to talk about this because let's talk about baking. Let's talk about why attracted. What was the first thing? Where do you go from there? Let's talk about baking itself, the items, because it's a very specific skill. I'll
Mhm.
get into
Mhm.
the bachelor's degree of sociology, occupational therapy, because there's ties into food and things like that. But I think
Right.
let's talk about specifically baking. Let's talk about what drew your interest initially. There was a seed left dormant inside of you for a long time. It awoken. What was
Mhm.
that like? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I guess food, I mean, yeah, you can go into so many different directions, cooking, baking, and all sorts of different things. There's avenues down of each, but I feel like what drew me the most towards baking is my sweet tooth. And when things started to shut down in March of 2020, and only essential businesses were allowed to be open, it was initially just for selfish reasons of wanting to learn how to bake a chocolate chip cookie, because that's one of, I would say, one of top three favorite desserts. But of all, it just seems simple. I was like, how can I not know how to do this thing that seems fairly simple because it's such a common baked good item? And so I really initially did it because of my sweet tooth and no intention of turning it into a whole business. I gravitated towards that one specific type of cookie, chocolate chip, and I would do several different recipes a day, or like I would do a recipe a day for like a good month. And so the nice thing about chocolate chip cookies is there's so many different types. There's like a crunchy thin chocolate chip. There's like the big New York style, almost kind of like a muffin top situation kind of chocolate chip
I know
cookie.
the man. Keep
Um,
going. I'm drooling over here.
there's like brown butter. There's there's like, it's just, there's so, when you say chocolate chip, it's like, it's just that's just like a blanket statement for like so many different types. And so, because I fixated on just that one specific thing, it allowed me to actually learn and truly understand what ingredients did and how they worked in a recipe, and what the importance of each ingredient was. Some recipes contained certain, like across the board, pretty much every recipe has flour, butter, sugar. Some has baking soda, some doesn't. Some has baking powder, some don't. And so that allowed me to really get to know the ingredients a little bit more than, just reading it off the ingredients list. And that kind of like itched my curiosity a lot more because I didn't really know. I didn't know what any of these things did. And so the more and more I got to know how baking is actually not just a science but an art as well, I just continued to be more curious and gravitate towards it a lot more. And so once I was able to hone down a specific recipe and create my own and tweak it in the way that fit my preferences, gained a little bit more confidence into trying other cookie recipes. And then that led me to want to do other baked goods like tarts and brownies and cakes. And I even went down the road of like making my own pasta, which isn't baking, but like, along the lines of just kind of like it opened up a floodgate of just like, I could do this. Like I love food so much that, I've just enjoyed eating it, but now I'm like actually like getting into it in a way where I can understand it in a deeper level. And so the two things that I gravitated to the most that I loved baking were both cookies and brownies. And so now at Foodology, those are the only things that we do. And I think at face value, a lot of people are like, well, when I say like, oh, I have a cookie and brownie bakery, I think they initially just think, oh, chocolate brownies and yeah, like a chocolate chip. Like how far could you possibly take that? But then I go in to explain like, we at any given moment, we offer between 9 to a dozen different flavors of cookies, if not more. And we also offer 7 different flavors of brownies, if not more. And I've been able to get creative with it, I'm Filipino, so I've been able to tap into my Filipino roots, and some of the flavor options that we offer are Filipino inspired, and also other Asian cultures, like matcha we have and pandan. But anyways, yeah, those are the two things that I gravitated towards baking once I figured out how to do it. And that's what we do and what I do every day now.
Talk to me about ingredients, importance of them. We've talked about the journey, and I think by really diving into two key things, brownies, cookies, you have the ability to really dive in the ingredients, the chemistry, the way things work together, different flavors, different styles, however you want to look at different culinary creative journeys. Talk to me about that, the ingredients, the importance to you, because I can feel the love and the energy when you talk about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the ingredients are so important. I mean, I now that I understand, before I was just like, okay, I guess I'll throw this baking powder in. I don't know, I'm not sure what it's supposed to do, but it's almost in every recipe, so it's got to, be important. But once I dug deeper and understood like how baking soda and baking powder needs to be activated with an acid. And I'm like, okay, what kind of acid? I'm not putting acid, but then I started to realize that like, certain ingredients, like we use some Greek yogurt in our cookies and brownies. And so something as simple as that can be an activator, eggs, and all those like other ingredients that you just don't really think about and just kind of take it as, just like, okay, like these are just standard ingredients that are needed because that's what the recipe says. But it's so important to know what they do because especially in the beginning when I was just doing everything on my own and I would start to get busier and busier, I didn't know I had to figure out my systems and figure out to like maximize my productivity and also stay organized. And so there was a lot of learning that occurred during that process. And so there would be times where I would create a whole batch of, example, chocolate chip cookies. And when you're putting all the ingredients together, the dough is going to look the same. It's not like cooking where, well, even with cooking, without tasting it, you can't really tell. That's how you would be able to tell. But with baking, it's hard to understand where you messed up until it's coming out of the oven. So, which is the last step. And so it's actually really, in the beginning, it was really frustrating for me because I would forget something as simple, the baking powder or the baking soda, and my cookies would fall flat. And, the first couple times where I messed up, I didn't understand. And so now knowing and digging a little deeper about the ingredients and knowing how important they are and what each specific one does and all of that, it's allowed me to kind of problem solve backwards when it does occur. And so now with my staff, if I notice something isn't proper, it doesn't look right or isn't properly rising, or, I can kind of, you know, talk with them out like, did we forget this particular ingredient? Did we forget to do this? And then more often than not, it's like, oh, maybe. And then sometimes it's not forgetting. Another important thing about ingredients is always having something fresh, because baking powder, baking soda, cream, all of the all these ingredients that we use have a shelf life on it. And if they're not fresh, then it's not going to it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. And on top of that, it really makes a difference for the baked goods that, you produce. If you're not using high quality, good quality, fresh ingredients, it's gonna show, and people are gonna be able to tell. Nowadays, it's really difficult with everything going up, specifically eggs, butter, and cocoa. I mean, chocolate right now is like, think I read it's at an all-time high price point, and it has been actually for quite some time. I've slowly watched the prices rise, and it's difficult to see that, especially in the business that I'm in. But I do my best to not cut corners with the ingredients, because this is what people are paying for and what they know that we do, and they could taste it and they could tell. So, and I could too. And I don't feel confident giving out a product that I don't 1000% stand by. So,
Love this. Love this. I mean, you pick this up, you're like, okay, psychology, occupational therapy, I'm going to leave it behind. There are parts of it that led to the experience or life skills that are sort of bringing you to this point. And obviously, there's a lot of different things where both meet at the entrepreneurial world, or there's skills that are necessary in building businesses. Let's talk about some of that, because there are gains here. There are things about marketing and advertising and understanding recipes and processes that probably fit into all these things. Like, okay, like how can I do this better for the human? For example, how can I market this better for the human? Oh, how am I affecting the human with my ingredients? I think there's probably all of that goes on. I'm not sure. Talk to me about that. You're a very intelligent person. Like what the skills that come in sort
oh,
of into your new business from your previous life. Let's talk about that.
okay.
What
Yeah.
things have you learned that sort of have carried over? Sorry,
Yeah.
I can be
So,
wordy in my questions. I
no,
apologize.
it's all good. No, no, no. Yeah. So a lot of the times, specifically my family, I think, they're very excited and proud about this journey that I'm set to take on. But early on, I think a lot of them were like, wait, you spent money and time to get this degree. Like, what, don't waste it. And I don't like to look at anything as a waste. And although, like, this, I could have taken a completely different path from the beginning. Like if I had just gone down the culinary path straight from high school into college, things would be different. But I also think, like I said in the beginning, my journey is unique. And I think that nothing that I've been through has gone to waste. And that including like learning the like skill sets and life skills that I learned not just in college and in grad school, but in the workplace while I was working as an occupational therapist. I feel like a lot of my, how do I say this, like organizational skills, prioritizing things throughout the day in terms of importance of what needs to get done, and all the like scheduling and all that stuff, because being your own boss, no one gives you a schedule. You have to figure it out on your own. And actually, as an occupational therapist, I didn't work a traditional 9 to 5. I was per diem, which is meaning basically it's almost like a part-time with several different contracting jobs. And it was up to me to fill out my schedule. And I was never really told what to do, when to do it. I just was responsible to get it done. And so I think a lot of the lessons that I learned with that kind of scheduling and prioritizing has led me to become a fairly decent organized scheduler now, especially because I'm not just responsible for my own schedule, but my staff's as well. And so things like that, I feel like has helped me. And without those experiences, I don't know how well I'd be able to manage them today. Also, a lot of the people that I made friendships and became colleagues with as an occupational therapist were a big pivotal part of my journey in the beginning of me starting my business, because they were the people that were trying my baked goods and buying them from me. They were some of my first customers, some of my first motivators. And so again, like I think without me going down the journey that I did, I would not have had those experiences. But yeah, I just think that nothing is wasted. And although I still do hold those 2 degrees and I'm not actively using it per se, I think that the skill sets that I've learned from gaining those degrees and, working in the field for a few years has gained me a lot of things that I use today as a business owner. So yeah.
I love this. Okay, let's talk about building a business, because that's not none of the I wouldn't say maybe you build a book of business the same way. You have relationships the same way with clients that you try to have with your customers. But let's talk about building a business, because it's something that's new to you. Like, do you have that influence? Where do you go? Mentors? How does the community help you? Where do you sort of start to go? And how do you navigate this? And sort of what's the process you sort of take on to build this? You start baking, you're like, okay, I want to make a business out of this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How do you do it?
Oh gosh. I feel like anytime I get asked this, I sometimes like I'm like going through my brain of like, how do you do it? And I'm like, how did I do it? Because I just did it. I don't know. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly like step by step, because I feel like with business, it's there's so many different paths and possibilities. And so for me, I feel like the way I initially saw it was I thought I had something going once people outside of my friends and family who were trying the baked goods were saying really positive things enough for them to spend their hard-earned money with, just to buy the cookies and the brownies. And so early on, I knew that I had something worthwhile. And for me personally, I just love connecting with people. And so I found it easy for myself to go to pop-up markets and sell on the weekends that way, promote my product on the Instagram page. And, not just when people would pick up or, if I would see them at the markets, it wasn't just a transactional, here's your cookie, here's your brownie, you know, here's your cash back. It wasn't just a transactional. I genuinely am interested in like, how did you hear about, Foodology? How did you hear about me? Where are you from? And those kind of conversations I would have with almost every customer, because I genuinely cared about, how they got here. And so I think one of the important things about starting a business is creating like a really strong community and foundation to the business, because nowadays, especially I feel like with AI and just, technology continuously growing in so many directions, I think that more than ever, we as humans are more attracted to the human feel and touch. And what I mean is like, I feel like what I notice with a lot of brands, especially the ones with like a lot of money, even those folks are using AI to, make ads or commercials or whatever. And you can kind of tell, like, I mean, sometimes it's like now it's like actually kind of scary because we can't see the like we can't it's starting to become so good that it's difficult to differentiate if this is real or not. But I think for the most part, we can still identify, like our eyes can just genuinely identify like this isn't real. And so when it comes to small businesses like mine and the kinds of things that I share on my social media, I think people gravitate towards that because it's real and it's not computer generated, and it's something that's honest. And so I've always been pretty transparent with my audience on social media and with the customers that come into my bakery. And I genuinely like especially in Long Beach. Long Beach is such a big city, but it's also very small town feels. And the people that come in, I mean, we have a ton of regulars that come in on a daily basis and a weekly basis. And, like I'll remember like what they told me last, and I'll ask them, oh, how did that interview go? Or how did that, how's your dog? Is they okay after that surgery you mentioned last time you were in here? And I feel like it's me genuinely caring, but it's also like now that I look at it, it adds that extra special human touch to it that can't be really bought or found in a lot of places now that everything is just so advanced in technology. And so overall, going back to the question, I think it's important when starting a business to really to build your community and to not just genuinely care about the product, but the people that are purchasing the product, and making sure that they're not just happy with that, but the overall experience of coming in. I've actually had high school students and college students and even younger than that come in, and their parents have told me that my child had a prompt in their English class about their favorite place in Long Beach or their happy place, and they wrote about your bakery, and they've shared, like, it's happened. I can't believe how many times it's actually happened. It's happened at least like slightly less than a handful of times, but that is way more than I would ever imagine, the kind of joy and happiness that it brings to people so strongly enough to write about it, or to, even consider it to be an answer to a question that asks about what brings you joy and happiness. And so it's little things like that. And I think that when I see other cookie businesses, because cookies are hot right now, and have been for a while actually, but bakeries and baked goods has been such fast growing and big business lately. It's kind of it's kind of intimidating to see the fast growth of other businesses. But when I look at mine, I'm not really looking. I would eventually love for this to become more and more, you know, more growth every day, every year. But the way that I also like to look at it is sometimes fast growth is not exactly ideal. And I just love the idea of growing organically and letting the community grow strong. And in times of like, just, times are difficult now and have been for a while, but I love that people are turning to us as a source of happiness. And I think that's what creates like a really strong brand and business.
Okay, let's talk about finding a location, creating a bakery, hiring employees, like all of this, because I think it's important. How do you find the right staff? How do you find the right location? How do you make sure the location has the things that you need to do what you're trying to do with the cookies and the brownies?
Yeah. That's probably gotta be one of the hardest parts to at least in my beginning journey, finding a location. Although it didn't take a long time for me personally to find the location that we're at right now. It is it's really important to understand the community that you're gonna be serving, and to understand the foot traffic and the flow and all those things. And then on top of that, finding a space that not only fits the equipment that you're going to need, but also to make things less complicated, you want to find a space that is already food, like that was already previously a food establishment of some sort. It's not impossible to take an old office or an old clothing store and turn it into a bakery or a restaurant, but the process is a lot longer. There's a lot more permits, a lot more financial things that you're going to have to do in order to make ends meet. And so when I found this space, I found it in Belmont Shore, which is a really popular area in Long Beach that has specifically it's Second Street. And it's a street it's pretty much like one of our downtowns. It's got, a bunch of bars, restaurants, local boutiques, all sorts of different things. And so naturally when I saw this space, I immediately considered this like a great opportunity because of the natural foot traffic that the restaurants and the boutiques already bring. And in addition to that, our shop is actually one street away from the beach. It's like the street right over. People cut through the alleyway on the side of our bakery to get to the beach. And so I found opportunity in that. There's going to be a lot of families and kids, and so I thought that was also another great reason to take up this space. And because it was a food space before, that was like pretty much that was the ideal situation. So although it didn't have all the equipment that I needed, like the oven, the hood, I would do all that stuff. But at the end of it, it only took me about 4 months from signing the lease to opening our doors. At the time, it seemed like forever, but it took roughly about like 4-ish months until we were able to open doors, which in retrospect is so fast compared to my other friends who are also in the food industry who have taken upwards of almost 2 years to open up a space because of just permits and just having to redo certain things. Once you get into a space, it's your responsibility to update what the city is expecting you to update. So luckily, we did not have to do any of that and didn't come across too many challenging things. And so, yeah, I think it's important. Location is absolutely important, especially if you're brand new. Although I feel like I had like a really strong community on social media, I was still not well known in my community. And so I needed to be in a space that naturally had a lot of people, brought a lot of people in, and yeah, that's where we ended up.
I love it. This is incredible. I just love the pivot. I love the preparation. I love all of it. Well, I want to tie back something. You mentioned food as a family being important. Your palate developed at a very young age, not knowing the importance of it, sort of being a late bloomer in terms of baking and food and stuff like that. Let's talk about the importance of food in your family, culture, breaking bread, love through food, because I can tell you love it. I can tell it's a part of your passion. The way you loved your clients in the previous life is the way you love your customers in this life. And the vehicle then is different than the vehicle now. And the vehicle now is food, but also community and also relationships. So let's talk about the importance of food to you, to your family, that love that you sort of, I can feel in your energy. I think the audience can probably feel it too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm Filipino, and so food, I mean, just like in many, many cultures, food is like the center of all gatherings and of all things. And so I was born in the Philippines, but I grew up here in California. And so I strongly hold ties to my Filipino side because my family is very traditionally Filipino. But since I grew up here, I also, feel strongly and identify strongly as Filipino American. And so what I see in terms of, I actually recently went to the Philippines, and everything that you do is revolved around food. And in Filipino culture, it's actually considered bad or not polite to turn down food. And so no matter how full you are, you've got to at least take a few bites of whatever it is that is being offered to you. And so the whole time there, I was just completely full every single day, every single moment in the best way possible. But my family, we food is just the center of like all celebrations. It's the first thing that we like talk about when we're about to do some kind of gathering. Like, what kind of food are we going to be bringing? What are like what is it? And so even as a child, that was like the number one thing that I looked forward to during family gatherings is the food, what food is going to be there. And my dad passed away when I was a lot younger. I was 10 when he passed away, but he also was a lover of food. And I think that a lot of what I love and know is because of him. And a lot of the things that I actually, some of my favorite foods now, I mean, I was 10, so I was like old enough, but also young enough to not completely remember. But some of my favorite foods now are things that maybe my mom or someone will mention, like, oh, that was your dad's favorite too. And so I just feel like food has like a very special, just brings such a special connection to people in a way that can't other things, like there's no other way that food can do what it does in, how do I say this? Like there's no other way that food can reciprocate that kind of feeling and joy than anything else in the world. I don't think that there's anything that can compare. And that's my personal feelings towards it. And that's why also like Foodology, we do cookies and brownies, but we're also like a little foodie gift shop. So everything that we have in the shop in the front of our house, we have like a little gift shop walls. There's two that we curate from small businesses. So I only source things from small businesses, and it has to be like a food inspired item. So we've got matches that are like have like little like food like drawings on it. We have like candles that are shaped into like lemons and eggs. We've got books all about like different types of cultures and their food. And so at the end of the day, I always just come back to like food. And this is like the thing that I feel have always felt so passionately about. And I think it does have a lot to do with my upbringing and just the way that my culture has put food on such a pedestal. And I'm glad that they do because it's everything that I know and love. So yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the name. How'd you come up with it? Let's talk about that. And then let's talk about items baked that fall into the cookie category, brownie category, holidays, special occasions. Like, let's talk about all those things, the creativity, what you love to do, some of the best sellers, all of that stuff. But I want to talk about the name first and then dive into the menu because I think it's important as to understand as I look at it. I think there's a
Uh-huh.
clear tie in there. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the name Foodology actually initially started because prior to me learning how to bake, I had an Instagram account, which I just, aside from my personal account, which I named Foodology. I can't exactly tell you why I had initially named it that, like, or where I had like truly gotten that from, but I feel like it just kind of came to me, and I just wanted this specific Instagram page to be about all things food. And so I that's what it was. And it was a small page. I didn't have a big following. It was just for friends and family mainly. And I was just posting about all the different kinds of food that I was eating, whether I made it or bought it or was at a restaurant or at a bakery. It was a page that was just particular to food. And so when I started baking, this is where I was kind of posting my journey and like learning how to bake. And if you really break it down, foodology really means the study of food. And in hindsight now, it's like, wow, like I didn't know why I named it that. I didn't have this very specific reason. But in hindsight, it's like, oh, I truly, during the pandemic, when I learned how to bake, I actually was studying the science of food and like what things were doing and studying food on my own as a self-taught baker. And so the name just stuck and I continued to keep it that way. And then when I opened the bakery, I had a vision early on that I wanted the bakery to have the gift shop that I had mentioned with all the little food inspired sorts of things in there. And so it all kind of ties in together because we've got, the unique foodie gift shop in the front and then the baked goods that we do. And I don't think that there's anything I personally, I mean, maybe it does exist, but I personally have never specifically been to a bakery that was specific to cookies and brownies and that was also a little gift shop. And so I like to call it a little one-stop shop because a lot of people like to gift our cookies and brownies during special occasions as well. And so what I've found is that people actually appreciate that we have that there because that's where they get their cards and the little gift. And then now they're getting the cookies and brownies, having it all together. And then it's just like a one-stop shop for folks to get what they want and need for special occasions. And then also on the, on the flip side too, it's just like a nice little kind of place where people feel happy and and it's like a little happy place of like all these like very positive, happy things that are all around, and then you're getting your delicious cookie and brownie. And so yeah, so that's where the name comes from, and it's kind of slowly organically grown into what it was meant to be.
Wow, I love this. Talk to me about customer feedback loop. I think it's probably something from your past that's in your present. Getting the
Hmm.
information back from your customers, what works, what doesn't work, what works in the gift shop, what doesn't work. How do you sort of analyze that, get that feedback because it's part of keeping the engine running that is your business?
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, feedback is everything to me, and sometimes, I mean, we've been lucky, and for the most part, well, I don't want to say lucky because we worked hard to get to where we're at, but a lot of our reviews online are really positive, and so we, even the positive reviews, we take that to heart and understand, like, okay, this is what we need to keep doing because this is what people are loving. And then on the very small chance that we do get the not so great reviews, those are the reviews that probably stay in my head for much longer than it needs to be, and I could probably like memorize it and repeat it by heart because the for some reason the negative reviews are the ones that stick and hurt the most. But I also take the opportunity to understand what it is that needs to be worked on, and so we take both positive and negative reviews to heart, and closely analyze it in a way to continue to help our business grow and make sure that it benefits everybody. And so when customers have we have a lot of flavors that come in and out. So we have a lot of flavors that are permanent, but we also have a lot of flavors that come in and out monthly. And so if I notice that a particular cookie has been getting a lot of questions in terms of when is it coming back, or like, can this be a permanent, those are the things that I consider in terms of, should we keep this as a permanent menu item? If there's a cookie that I notice that isn't really getting that much feedback in terms of like those kinds of questions, or I guess like no one's really curious about its return, that helps me understand, okay, like this is not something that like is urgently needing to come back. And when we do bring it back, I would love to like tweak it a little bit more because, people weren't as excited about that as, this cookie or this brownie. And so, yeah, customer feedback is honestly everything. We get emails all the time about positive, surprisingly, actually, we get, the only emails that we get from customers are positive feedback, which is kind of, I feel like, I mean, most of the time I feel like people take the time to write negative emails, and so I'm actually so happy that it's not the other way around, knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, we've just been fairly blessed, I would say, with to have honestly some of the best customers that we could ask for, because it's, I mean, the product is great, but I honestly think that our customers also are just incredible.
I love it. Let's talk a little bit more about building your team, getting
Hmm.
the team to make sure, well, if you're there, if you're not there, handling the same customer service, core values, treatment of the community, all of that
Hmm.
stuff, stocking shelves. Let's talk about building that team, modeling
Yeah.
it. Let's dive into that.
Yeah. I think that's probably also got to be one of the toughest parts about business is building the team. And I hear it all the time from my fellow friends that are in the food space that have difficulty with retention. And I will say that I am so grateful for my team because everyone that's currently working for me now has been working for me since we've opened the brick and mortar. But even before that, these are the same girls that have worked for me since we were just working out of a commercial kitchen, and prior to opening the brick and mortar. And so what I early on I instilled with them how passionate I am personally about this business. I've I have mentioned so many times that I'm not necessarily, I mean, we want to make money, of course, but the way that I put it in is, if there is a batch of cookies that didn't come out to standards, and I have a set of standards that I've talked to them about and they're familiar with, I would rather not sell those cookies and make that money than to sell that product. Like, I'm not just selling cookies to sell cookies. I'm here to sell high quality, incredible tasting cookies and brownies. And if a batch happens to not come out to those standards, I would rather not make that money. And I think, and along the lines of, I talk about things like that with them, and I share the importance, and they see that I'm in there with them all the time, and so they see my passion and they see how much I truly care. And I think that in order for a team to work efficiently and productively in the way that you want them to, you have to exhibit that as well. And so I do it day in and day out. They know, they understand how important it is to me, and now it's become important to them too. And, I always also mention, it's not just, this isn't just representing everything that you do, personally, is a representation of you as well. And so while you may be representing me and Foodology, at the end of the day, you're representing yourself. And I always instill into them that you want to be the best version of yourself, and that no matter what it is, whether they continue to work with me for however long they would like to, or they move on to whatever it is their dreams and aspirations are, they have to put their best foot forward. And so I've also told them too that to use me as a resource to help them achieve their dreams. So maybe their dreams are not necessarily in the food space. Like, I have one of my girls, she's an artist, and she's got dreams to be an artist and work in that space. And then I have another girl who's got dreams to be an author one day. And although I'm not really well versed in those lines of work, I am super well versed in following your dreams and making things happen. And so I try to encourage them to push them into the right direction. And so I think that when they see me and hear me say these things, that they really do take it to heart, and it translates into the service that they're giving to the customers and the way that they live their lives in general. And so for me, I think it's just important that I'm not just like their boss or the person that hired them to do this and that. I'm also like a colleague and a friend. Also, there's a fine line. You don't want to be like just a friend and things just go, like people start taking advantage. But luckily, that has not been the case. And, yeah, like I said, so far, everyone that I have currently on staff are the girls that I've had this entire time. And it's been a real, I've been really fortunate, honestly. I really do think that I've been blessed with some of the best people to work with me by my side, because there's no way that I'd be able to do this on my own. And I've been able to, since we've opened the bakery, I've been able to step away for like a week or two at a time, and things run smoothly. And so that's, I feel like, makes me feel great, because it feels like I did something right. Because half the time I feel like I'm not doing things right, even though things have gone well, but it's always that like imposter syndrome. But seeing them and seeing the reviews that come in about our positive service, not just from myself, but from my team, is a reflection of, I guess, the good work that I've done so far. And so, yeah, just I think it's really important to create a positive environment. And yeah.
Talk to me about getting new ideas in cookies, in brownies. Like, where do you get your creativity from? Where do you come up with new ideas? Where do you keep things sort of interesting, sticking with your traditional menus or items, I should say, your baked goods that your community audience loves, but also keeping it fresh for people to experiment and enjoy and try new things? Where do you get that
Yeah.
inspiration from? Or where do you find it? Where do you find new
Yeah.
recipes and
So
stuff? Or do you just come up with them?
I guess a lot of the time I just come up with it in a way, but like again, I love to eat and I love food. And so anytime I'm eating specifically dessert, I'm already in the zone of thinking, like, especially if I love it, like, how can I turn this into a cookie? How can I turn this into a brownie? So I'm always getting inspiration from other types of desserts. Recently, like I mentioned, I went to the Philippines, and so I went there, I went there for several reasons, but one of the main reasons was for actually recipe development and also sourcing ingredients from there. And so while I was there, any dessert, or if I passed by like a dessert spot, there was surprisingly a lot of cookie bakeries in the Philippines actually. And so I had the pleasure of trying like, the types of cookies out there and what was doing well there. And so I'm always in the zone of thinking like how can I turn this into a cookie and how can I get creative with it? And so it's honestly just from the things around me, the things that I'm tasting. If I like a popsicle bar that I just, I'm like, wow, how can I turn this into a cookie? Recently, it's been a while, but I went to the chocolate factory the other day, where they have all the different kinds of chocolate and the candied apples. And I completely forgot about this item, but in high school, I used to eat their cheesecake candy apple all the time. And I had it for the first time in a really long time the other day. And the first thing I thought about was, how am I going to turn this into a cookie?
I love
So I
it.
ate the whole entire thing with every single bite, just savoring it, but also like, what how am I gonna how I gotta figure out how to turn this into a cookie. And so yeah, I think that's the nice thing about cookies and brownies. Although conventionally they're pretty straightforward, like brownies especially, they're typically only chocolate or chocolate with walnut topping or something. I have been able to create a recipe in a way that I can introduce other flavors. So we have 7 flavors of brownies, chocolate, of course, being one of them, espresso being another, which is closely to chocolate, but then the others don't have traditional chocolate in it. So we have a matcha one, which is made with white chocolate, but then we've also got strawberry, pandan, ube with Oreo, and none of those have any chocolate in it at all. And so I've been able, which is also nice because when people come into the bakery, there's a surprising amount of people who don't like chocolate, which couldn't be me ever, but there's still a big chunk of people that don't. And so I'm happy to be able to serve that community of people who don't like chocolate because we have so many options without chocolate in it. And so yeah, anytime I try something, I'm just like, okay, like I can turn this into a brownie. Like let's like pull these flavors and like, make it happen. And so yeah, I'm just constantly whatever it is I'm eating, I'm constantly thinking. My brain doesn't stop when it comes to recipe development.
Amazing growth. Where are you hoping this goes? Where are you wanting it to go? Sort of you're building social media. I can feel the momentum your business is getting. It didn't happen overnight. It took time, as you mentioned earlier, but where are you hoping this goes?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many different directions that it can go in. I think every day there's like a new thought or idea that comes into my head. But for the most part, I think generally in the next few years or in the next year or so, I would probably like to open another location. The space that we're in right now, although it is in terms of location and just for it to be a starter location, it has been incredible. It's a really small space. I think right now, I forget the exact square footage, but we're for sure like somewhere around like 700 square feet for the whole thing. That's including the front of the house. So our kitchen is small and I like to play it safe. And so when I got this space, my first initial thought is, I mean, always believe in yourself. And I do, but I also always have second thoughts. And so what attracted me to this specific space was because of how small it was and that like, if things don't do well, then like it's not like I'm at least using every square footage and like, I'm maximizing the space to its most potential. But now I think that I definitely did not think of the other end of how successful we were going to be. And now our kitchen, we are slightly outgrowing it. And so in the next year or so, I would like to open another location, probably still within Long Beach, because again, I want to create a really strong community brand and just be really well known in my community first before I branch out into other places, which is actually I'm finding surprising because a lot of the customers we do get actually come from out of town, from neighboring cities, or from like even cities like an hour or two out and they'll drive out. So that kind of gives me enough confidence to like, eventually when we do continue to grow to open up in other cities as well. But I would like to have multiple locations. And then down the line, I'm also considering possibly going down CPG. And so, having consumer packaged goods on the shelf, like, the grocery or major stores so that it is even more accessible to people. But I know I've already started kind of diving down and understanding the world of CPG, and it's pretty cutthroat, and it's a difficult world to be in. But I don't know, it seems exciting, and so possibly CPG one day.
Yeah, I was on the other side. I was the one producing CPG also, so I know the leap you're about to take there. I
Mhm.
just took the leap on the other side. I was running massive facilities, so we took the leap to do it for others and co-pack. But yes, I do know what you're talking about because I learned a lot what individuals need and what their products need and stuff like that, and had some lessons for sure. But I like this a lot. I believe that your products would do very well in a CPG environment as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always think there there's no limit to dreams. And so, I could keep dreaming that dream, but then, if I don't end up in that path, that's okay too. I'm loving the path that we're currently on right now, but I feel like there's just so many different avenues that it could go in that are all exciting. And so, we'll see. But I know CPG is kind of, it's a wild, wild west. I know Expo West is actually coming out, is actually in a couple of weeks. So I'll be there. I like to go every year just to kind of, see what's going on. And it's exciting stuff, but I know it is a challenging path.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Normally I don't dive in as much on this one, but I'm going to give some advice on this. And this is for the audience too. Like normally I would coach someone or consult someone. This is what I would say to them in your circumstance, because I
Uh-huh.
think it's important that you build something. One of the things that attracted me to your business to be on the show was the diversity in it. Something that you did from day one by just having good business mindset, good entrepreneur seedlings that have spread inside of you, is that you vertically integrated your business from day one, and you offered not too many products that's like stumbles most bakeries, but you didn't stick to one, which is now Crumble's hang up. Crumble is
Hmm.
grew so fast, $1 billion company, blah, blah, blah. But now the sales have fallen to 40% of what they were before. And now they're needing to add back cakes or muffins, or they're struggling here. Okay. The other part that Crumble missed was the vertical integration. If I already have them here buying the cookies, why not the card? Why not the candies? Why not a sandwich? I don't know, whatever. Okay. A sandwich is a bad example, but what I'm saying is you have a captured attention. Okay. And now that I woke everyone up by saying sandwich and I got your attention, here's what I mean. Okay. If I'm going to scale a business and I'm going to build a business and I'm going to make it attractable to people that don't just want something that's trendy, something that's a flash in the pan now, it needs to have vertical integration, needs to be the ability to make money on multiple levels. Okay. Which you have. You have multiple brownies. You have multiple cookies. They're unique. You're creative. You add new ones to the list. Awesome. Then there's the gift shop, which allows the vertical integration even further, which people can just be there for that. They can be there for the cookies. They can be there for the brownies. Oh, but I also need this for this occasion, catering, birthday party, birthday present. Oh, get well soon, whatever. That's there. All important. Okay. That's what makes this attractive to me. Okay. And if it were me and I were going to do CPG, I would do a CPG item that they couldn't get in my store that's not a cookie or a brownie. I would do something that's like unique to you and they could get in your store, maybe at the gift store or easily available to go, but also they could get it in a grocery store and a CPG or something like that as well, adding to your mix, not taking away from what you already do in your store.
Hmm.
You know, the biggest thing the biggest mistake Taco Bell made, and people aren't going to believe me on this because people are like, yeah, they sell it all in their homes. It's great, but the problem is now people don't go to Taco Bell to eat Taco Bell with the sauce.
Hmm.
So now they just bring it home, and now I don't have an excuse to go to Taco Bell to get the sauce, which is the main appeal of Taco Bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Inter-
that's one of the things I would say, and I'm not saying there isn't, but maybe it's a cookie that is only CPG that you don't offer fresh, or it's something like that. But I just wanted to encourage that with you
Yeah.
as well, because that's part of this arsenal and part of the vertical integration you're already doing is the CPG. It makes sense in your model. You already have a model to help build your own brand in a CPG world in a very small scale. And then also being able to not only cater or give it away, but now ship through Goldbelly through a CPG that people can only get shipped. So now I can only get these if I go to the store. I can get these if I order them. But now I really have great loyal customers who, if they really like it on Goldbelly, now when I go to Los Angeles, I'm taking a trip to Long Beach to get the ones in store. Because if they're this good as a CPG and I can only get them here, what can I get that is unique just to the stores?
Right. Yeah. I didn't have not thought of that, but I mean, that is a good consideration.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's what
Yeah.
to do. You know your business more than anyone, but I was
Yeah.
just thinking that you already have this amazing infrastructure to scale, and
Yeah.
CPG does make sense.
Yeah.
Now it's
I
like,
just,
go ahead.
I initially, so from the beginning too, I had
Yeah.
spoken to a business owner, not in the baking space, but she had a brick and mortar in the food space. And she had initially told me, do not ever open a bakery. And so for a while, it got in my head. And so I thought I wanted to do CPG first. And then I listened to the story of the owner of Tate's Bake Shop, Kathleen King. Are you familiar with Tate's?
Very familiar.
Yes, and her story and how she created strong community within, her own community in her bake shop and super well known there. People would flock over there when they vacationed and all these sorts of things. And then she was able to grow the business into, well, I mean, she had her downfalls with bad business partners and all that, which was, a really sad part of her story. But she, still overcame that. And I mean, gosh, she's what did she sell it for? Like 500, $500 million, I think.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I found value in, like, having a bake shop, really, like, honing in on the importance of community and then building a CPG from there. I don't think she understood where her brand was going when when it was unfolding. And that also kind of gives me comfort too, because as much as I'd love to see, like, my mom, like, bless her, she wants my business to do so well, but she's constantly asking, like, what are we going to do for growth? What are we going to do for growth? And I'm just like, wait, let's, like, I need to, there's steps that need to be taken in an organic way. Like, I mean, yes, Crumble is $1 billion or whatever they're worth, but you're right. I know I've been following what's going on with them, and it's not looking too great. And so I think there is also value in just slowing down and taking the time to understand the business and taking it from there. But yeah, I like that advice that you gave about the CPG exclusive product. That could be something.
You have a really good brand. You have a really good product. And that just from a business entrepreneur mindset, you've assembled something already. And I agree with you, and I will support the decision that the foundation is the most important before you scale. And if it's not ready yet, it's not ready. And if there's a missing piece and something that you feel needs to be there, build that, guys. Don't, because we've learned, and if you guys listen to the chicken waffle episodes, he was quick to franchise, he was quick to scale. Now he's had to pull back, rebuild the foundation completely, including the menu, the layout, the items on the menus, everything to rebuild it to even scale it. And he may never franchise again. We don't know. But
Yeah, I
that's,
mean,
go ahead.
yeah, that story. Yeah, I mean, listening to that too, I remember early on, even before my brick and mortar opened, I had already had someone who was in the franchise business. If I early on, I didn't even have my own store. I was just in a commercial kitchen at this point, and they had already asked, like, "Do you want to franchise your business?" And I was like, "I that sounds enticing, but." No, like I have there's no foundation, and it's just that seems like a recipe for disaster. I think too fast of a growth is just it can be dangerous, and that scares me. And so I'm not looking to just create a brand I mean, there's some businesses that are meant to create and sell, but that's not the kind of business this is. And so I'm looking for longevity, not, I guess, the opposite, whatever the opposite of longevity is.
Yeah, legacy. You want legacy, not quick. You don't want ups and a quick down, because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we even just heard a story about a 100-year-old business that during COVID made some bad decisions, or didn't do things right, or didn't take money when the government was offering it, and now a 100-year-old business legacy is gone in California. So
Oh,
it's,
oh, I don't think I heard about that.
yeah, I believe in down at Fisherman's Wharf. And so in San Francisco, so these are, things that, out of the ashes came an entrepreneur in some ways, a really great one. But, these are things that if we don't have strong foundations, guys, and strong legacies and diversity in our businesses, if they're only relying on what comes in the door, we're too reliant on one thing, and people are like, wait, I have how much on my menu? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Yeah.
scaling your business, or leading your business to be strong enough to weather disasters. To be what we're talking about here is there's other businesses around the world that are very, very old restaurants or businesses, and ancient parts of the world that are sometimes 500, 600, 700 years old. There's companies in Europe that are that old.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're building legacy, guys, and we want to build foundation, it's not just get it up so we have it now, and we get it now. When we're at these very beginning stages, we have to think about what happens if my 11th generation from me is running this business 1,000 years from now, if that's even possible. Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
is. What did I do now that I'm leaving them with? And can they solve problems and go back and do it? But guys, as you build your business, it is a Titanic. At some point, if you try to turn, you expose yourself to the icebergs and it cracks your hull and you sink, or you have to go straight through them, risking maybe sinking, not knowing. But whatever you're building, you have to know the icebergs are coming. It's an analogy. It's not a great one, guys, but I'm trying here.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's true. It's true though.
yeah, let's talk about this. Will be my last question for you, because I definitely am going to have you back on down the road as
Yeah.
you continue to do this journey. But lessons, things that you learn that you know now that you wish you knew when you started your business, or anything you would pass on to the audience or other food entrepreneurs trying to figure it out.
Oh gosh, there's so many. There's so many. I think the most important thing, which I didn't really initially, I mean, I don't think I had an issue with, but I see a lot of, aspiring entrepreneurs or people specifically in the food space, is to be flexible and to pivot when you need to pivot. So I think early on, you had mentioned that, yes, early on, I only offered 4 items on my menu, like 4 flavors. And I think that that benefited me because it was very specific. People knew what they were getting from me. Whereas other bakeries I noticed were offering cakes, cake pops, cupcakes, cookies, and like pies and tarts. And so although that's like incredible, I think that it's important to really create a strong identity in your brand. And so because I stuck with cookies and kept it simple initially with the 4 flavors, it really helped people understand easily like who we are and what we did. And so I think that anytime anyone asks for advice, that's actually one of the main things that I suggest is to hone in on what it is that you want to be well known for and like work from there. And I think you already were touching on this, but some people are not willing to pivot or to be flexible, and that can be more harmful than not. And so you got to stick true to what you truly think is right for you. But when you need to make changes in your business and you need to you know either I don't know. You just need to make changes. I think you have to just be honest with yourself. And if that's what you got to do, that's what you've got to do. And so for me, I think that I've actually been overly flexible and am willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means less sleep, a lot of less sleep, I will do it. And so, yeah, just kind of having that tenacity and that continued drive and motivation to just keep going and then factor in the flexibility. I think all of those are things that are a recipe for success. And yeah, I don't think I've stopped working a day since I started this business. My mind, even when I'm out of town or technically not supposed to be working, like I said, when I eat something or when I see something, my mind is constantly just working and figuring out like, hey, I like that concept. How can I tweak that a little bit and like, make it my own and introduce that here at Foodology. And so, yeah, I just keep going, keep going. It's okay to take breaks, but keep going, be flexible. And yeah, I mean, I would say those are like the top things to traits to have for continued success.
What is your motivation and inspiration? What is that thing that you're discussing? What is it that keeps you going?
I think that what keeps me going the most is that I see the potential for more. I don't foresee, like, I don't see the ceiling on this yet. And I don't think ever, because there's just so much possibilities. And I think that's what attracts me the most about entrepreneurship and business is that it's forever growing and it's forever changing. And I think naturally I'm a pretty creative person and I'm glad that I get to exercise my brain in that way. So I think my personality type just naturally I get excited about things that keep my brain going. Of course, I do have days where I'm like, I can't think anymore. I like no one talk to me. I'm shutting off my phone and going to sleep. But as soon as I get that good rest in, I'm ready for it. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that I genuinely love and then passionately love food and being in this space. And I don't take it for granted because I know although I have a plan B, I don't plan on using that plan B. And I hope that I don't have to, but it is comforting to know that if things don't work out, I won't completely be jobless and, no source of income. But I think that it keeps me going to not want to fall back on that plan B and to make it happen. And it's like it's non-negotiable for me to just to keep this business going for as long as I could, until I genuinely feel that it's not something that's for me anymore. But I love it. I really do. As much as I stress out about it, in a strange way, it's like it's kind of addicting to keep going. And my customers keep me going. My staff, for sure. My staff, we're a small business, and so right now as if I could pay them $1 million, I would. But I tell them all the time, like as we keep growing, I promise that you guys will grow with me too, as long as you want to stick around. And so I have goals of, making sure that they're all well taken care of too, because they have been so great. And so there's a lot of factors I think in my motivation, but I think the root of it is my passion for it. So yeah.
Amazing. Is there anything we didn't cover? Anything you want to share? Anything that's being called out of your heart to be spoken that we didn't cover today?
I guess I mentioned it early on already about it's not too late. I think that because I get a lot of people coming either physically in the bakery to tell me like they've been following my journey and then they'll share their story. Actually, just this past weekend, I was at a pop-up market and a woman came up to me saying that she's so inspired by, my journey and how transparent I've been and, like the things that I've been able to share online. And when people tell me these things, it just reminds me that I'm not just in the baking business, but I also genuinely love people and want to help them. And that's actually initially why I became an occupational therapist, because the goal of occupational therapy is to help, the umbrella goal is to help people become independent. Typically, it's for people who have undergone some kind of life changing incident, like a stroke or some kind of maybe like disability that they were born with. But my goal as an occupational therapist was to help people live life to their fullest and to be as independent as they possibly could be. And now that I've left that career, I think I still hold those values as well. And I just want people to know that like anything is possible as long as you work really hard for it. And I'm not talking like you put in a couple hours a day and you feel like you worked hard. Like you'll feel it and you'll know it. And whatever it is that goal is, it's so possible. And I feel so passionately about helping others find that and pursue that for them, because I did it for myself. And it's so, as hard and challenging and demanding as it is so satisfying. And I really do feel like I'm living my truth. And yeah, I just really hope that people don't, I guess if they're listening to this, that the take home message is, whatever it is, be honest with yourself. And if there's something pulling at you to do a specific hobby or maybe a career change or whatever it is, go and try, like, do yourself that favor and give it a chance, and you'll never know where it could take you. And I did exactly that. I mean, it was COVID happened and all these things happened in order for it to organically happen the way that it did. And I'm so glad that it happened for me in the way that it did, because I don't know if the pandemic never happened, I don't know if I would be where I'm at right now. And I probably would still be an occupational therapist, and I would probably happily be an occupational therapist, not knowing what could have been. But now that I'm living this and this is the path and I see what could have been, I'm so glad that I'm living in this current reality than the what could have been, if that makes sense. And I think everyone has the opportunity to do that, because I think that everyone's put on this earth with a specific skill, a specific interest, and a specific reason. And I think that it's so magical when you find that and you really allow yourself to be in that space. And yeah, so follow your dreams, give it a chance, and work hard and be good.
I
And
do
be
have
nice to
another
people.
question based on this. How did you deal with the
Yeah.
societal pressure of the pivot? Because it's a huge one, right? You mentioned it slightly earlier. You have this education. What are you doing? This is not what you
Hmm.
studied. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of societal pressure there, a lot of almost, I don't want to say it this way, but it's an unintentionally thinking or wanting you to fail in some ways or whatever, because it's the uncertainty. It's scary for the person verbalizing it. I don't know how else to put it. I want to be gentle because I'm making it sound more harsh than it is, but it can be that way to the receiver. And so talk to me a little bit about that, because that's a big pressure, especially later in life when you pivot and everyone's like, why don't you just go do this? And why don't you do
Right.
that? Well, this is the safe bet. Why are you taking this risk?
Yeah.
Talk to us
Yeah.
about that
No,
a little bit.
I mean, it is tough because, in my culture, in Filipino culture, it's pushed on you to be a nurse because it's a safe career choice, or something in the medical field. I personally know, like, I can't handle blood or any of that stuff, and kudos to those who could, because I just can't. But I was initially really pushed by my family to follow that path. And I am innately a little stubborn. And I think that actually serves me a purpose. Not always, but in this case, I think it did. And so, I mean, I did take it to heart what people were saying. And, I mean, it's like, yeah, you spent all that time and all that money. But my rationale is, okay, so why would I spend more of my time and essentially money too, because there, like, in certain careers, you cap out of how much you can make. Why would I continue to spend my time and money doing something that I know isn't going to serve me and isn't really, like, at the end of the day, truly meant for me? And so it's just more like, if we're talking about waste, like if people are looking at what you've experienced as waste and specific to me, like my education and my time that I spent, in school, then why would I waste more of it? And so that's just how I see it. I don't know if people can exactly understand that to be like a proper rationale or argument for it, but it's like if you're going to talk about waste, then I have the rest of my life, and wouldn't that be considered waste if I didn't do what I was meant to do? And so that's how I saw it. I also see I also see that when I look at people who, I mean, I was only an occupational therapist for about 3 years, but in that time, I worked with people who had been in the industry for way longer, 20, 30, upwards of, 40 years. And they weren't happy. They weren't happy. And I just felt like they weren't I could see, like, I was looking into what could have been. And so I think a lot of the time people push you to do what's on the monopoly board, what's the one path to take, because that's what we know, and don't deter from that. And I just think that it is scary, and it is actually very difficult and challenging because the cards are not laid out for you, the steps are not laid out. But I also see it as life is going to be hard no matter what, regardless if you decide to choose the path that's already set out for you, or you decide to take the path that's unknown. It's going to be difficult. So choose your challenge. And I think one challenge will lead to a higher quality of life than the other. Not to say that these set out career paths are not, there's people who are genuinely happy in these careers, and that's what was meant for them. And so, but it's not always meant for everybody. And so it's easy to follow the herd. It's easy to follow what everyone else is doing or what's expected of you. And maybe or maybe not, it is meant for you. But if there's something else that's like gnawing at you, and that's kind of like more likely than not, if someone's listening to this podcast, there's something that's eating away at them that they want to pursue, then you got to do yourself that service to do it. So choose your hard. It's going to be hard no matter what, but that's I guess that's how I see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Where can they find
Yeah.
you online? Where can they find your business, the address, the location, all the social media, all that good stuff?
Yeah, we're most active on Instagram. And so you can find us at Foodology Baked Goods, which is spelled food, Foodologie, baked goods. And then our website is www.eatfoodology.com. And then our brick and mortar bakery is located in Long Beach, California, which is 195 Claremont Avenue. It's right off of 2nd Street, which is a really popular street, like I had mentioned earlier. So you can literally make a day out of it. If you're from out of town, you can literally spend the day at the beach, get something delicious to eat at one of the restaurants on the street, and then grab some dessert at our spot. You could literally make a whole day out of it there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're not really active on too many other social medias. And oh, you can also find us at like some local Long Beach coffee shops and boba shops, because we also do small wholesale to like local shops that sell our products, which is also a really great marketing tactic, because we've gotten a lot of people to visit our shop that frequent the coffee shops in all of the places. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good model. I love that as well. Hershey model. Hershey not only sells Hershey's chocolate candy bars and candy to everyone, but they also sell the chocolate directly to companies like Mars, who also, so they integrated their business. They're like, we'll not only make our own, but we'll sell everyone the milk chocolate to make theirs. It's
Huh,
pretty
I've got to
important.
study the Hershey's model, because I'm not really too familiar with that, but I'll
Yeah.
take a look at that.
Yeah, it's a good
Interesting.
model. Yeah, and he had some
Yeah.
failures along the way and some ideas that were big ones that total meltdowns, like big cow milking facilities and certain patterns that he thought would be better. but we learn, we fail and learn as entrepreneurs for sure, or opportunities for growth, fall forward. So thank you, Maria, for coming on the show. I so appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to having you again. Everyone in the audience, please like, share, try, order the cookies online, whatever you can do that. Questions. I have questions for Maria that we didn't get to today. I have part 2 questions. I'm going to ask Maria to come back on the show, guys. I want to dive deeper into delivery services and building the gift service part of the business, because there's all of that and the customer service involved. So everyone in the audience, I hope to have Maria back. Maybe you guys can help convince me do that. Like, share, comment on her page, but also on the episode for this show, etc. And if you guys have questions and stuff like that for me or for her, you can always text them, email them, DM them through social media to us, and we'll grab them from there. So thank you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate all the support from everyone. The Gorilla Brave stuff, the support with the podcast, the growth we're seeing. It's taken us a while to get here and understand how to handle everything with you guys as an audience, and the direction that I thought this would go versus the direction we are going. And it's taken a while, and I appreciate everyone's support, but we have gone the direction. I've listened to your questions, suggestions, requests, education, get the information out there, networking, fellowship, other entrepreneurs on a global scale, not just through local business communities or just food conferences like an NRA where everyone is there for 3 days trying to find stuff and then network. And then no one can ever figure out how many people to follow up with because you've met 10,000 people in a weekend. So I'm trying to hear all of those things, guys, and allow this to be complementary to all of the things that are out there, and not necessarily be disruptive, but be complementary. And I know that's hard because as an entrepreneur, I love being disruptive, but no, this is a complementary things, guys. This is more like widgets to enter into what you're already doing: podcasts, books, learning in your businesses. This is the fellowship piece where learning from each other, learning from core values, spirituality, things that maybe normally you wouldn't get out there in business courses or in an MBA or in those type of things. We're trying to fill those gaps. And for the entrepreneurs trying to start out, maybe from other fields, late bloomers like we're talking about on this episode, that's why the Instagram page for Gorilla Brave exists. That's sort of the lower hanging information, starting up, what's trending, what's threatening. If you're a food truck, commissaries, if you're going into CBG, what to look for in a co-packer. If you're trying to bring spirituality into your business, there's a lot of ways to do that. Bringing God in your business, things like that, in a way that's more palatable versus a way that gets, believe me, I've done it in my businesses. I know what it's like to have people run away from you all of a sudden because you're trying to integrate a higher standard into your business. We'll call it that. But it's okay. I've learned it and I understand it, and now gone to school for it as well, going to school for it. So that's the important thing that we navigate, because I hear you guys, all of you guys are looking for that, building those core values. So this is a way to do it that I think is the highest level of building it. So why I don't want to dance my way around it. We're just going to go right to the top, the higher standard, and then somewhere in between where we are now and where the highest standard possibly is, the universal law, we can fill in the gaps in our business. So that's the approach we're taking. So thank you, Maria. It really means a lot. I appreciate you juggling everything around and me changing times on you just so the audience knows. Every once in a while, I have to change times or I have family emergencies. So I did have that. And I appreciate your patience, Maria, and rescheduling and working with me. So thank you for that. Love everyone in the audience. I love you guys, the entrepreneurs out there. Keep kicking butt. Always rooting for you guys. International audience that is just growing at such a cool rate. Very cool, guys. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love all over, in places that don't even speak English, which kind of blows my mind. But anyway, you guys are awesome, and thank you. We're out.